The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, DJ Christian Rutzel from Raspberry Blitz.
Hello.
Victoria Jones from Satoshi's Page.
Hi there, folks.
Daniel M. from Nodestrich.
Happy Friday, everyone.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Bitcoin $30,000. Some say that Bitcoin $30,000 is still out of grasp, but getting there looks likely. Bitcoin is struggling at the barrier with many spinning top candles, suggesting that bulls are looking for new clues. As usual, the chart masters have told us that the price could go two ways. It could go up or it could go down. Christian Rutzel, what do you think about the price of Bitcoin?
No, I always remember like that was the all-time high some years ago. So we're kind of steady there. I think it's a good price level. So, and the markets do what the markets do. I'm not a good market expert, I have to say.
That means it's going up. Victoria Jones, the price?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, all those doom mongers who are predicting 10K seem to have been completely blindsided by the latest pump first part of the year. I have to say it has been pretty spectacular. It's almost as though the price going down, there was a load of fear about the future of crypto at the end of last year, and now all the fear is about the stable coins. I mean, I think especially with USDC losing its peg, I think anyone who owns USDC, the moment it was level again, is like, I'm getting out of here. Because the thing is, while it still works, it seems like a great way to gamble until it isn't. I mean, last time I was on, we were talking about, the exchanges and how, they're a great way to gamble until they're not. And I think stablecoins is the same kind of thing, really. I mean, the whole reason why Bitcoin was invented was to give us a way out of the dollar. And so, to have cryptocurrencies that match that and to want to store your wealth in that, it's logical. People want to make the most of the fact that Bitcoin is going to have a downtrend. But I think the moment they saw that, I think that was a real fear signal. So, and also, I think this stage psychologically is always a little bit tricky. I mean, I remember in 2019, the price had gone down quite far, and it was like, oh, if it goes any lower, I'm going to be in trouble. And so the moment it popped again, I sold some, thinking I can't afford for it to go down. It's a sigh of relief that it had gone up, and then it's and then you're scared that it's going to go down any further. But the thing is, the moment I did that, the price just took off like a rocket, and it never went back down to that price again. And so you have to be really careful if you've got significant savings in Bitcoin, because it's very stressful if that's what you rely on. I think the ones who got into Bitcoin early and can just afford to spend it whenever are the fortunate ones. But I think the ones who got in the last couple of years, and this will be the case as we continue, I think, over the next few years, we know that the volatility will get less. That's the way in which it's been designed. And so although you can get some mileage out of selling at the top and buying at the bottom if you're that way inclined, those highs and lows will reduce over time. And so in those situations, it kind of gets more and more scary to play those moves. But yeah, I see this as the same point in 2019 where I sold some and then the price took off like a rocket. I think this is what's going to happen now.
It is interesting. This, as soon as you're living off it, you start freaking out. You start watching it all the time. And like Victoria's saying, you start making those sells at the bottom. All those sells where you're like, how could someone sell at, X price? That's all me. That's all me freaking out because my savings is gone. My work goes into this savings and, the whole house is on fire. So I can see a lot of people doing that right now and saying, oh, 17, 20, I'm out. This is enough. And then you watch, the thing will return to where it was before and maybe even higher, allegedly. It is interesting to say, like you said about the stable coins, they always rely on a bank account. Never made any sense to me. It was the same old idea like Coinbase or altcoins or anybody else. Bitcoin's this trustless system we're going to come up and hook up our trust system to it. And you can just trust us. We'll just keep the money in a bank account. We got some big players in the game. Tether's going to be fine. So I've never understood the stablecoin thing. And it was on the people who, the chart people who predicted it going to 10K. They always cover themselves. So you can't say that they said 10K because they said, maybe it goes to 10K. Maybe it goes right back up. They always say both. And it's ridiculous. I don't know why people still follow them, especially when we have the greatest predictor of Bitcoin right here. Daniel M., what do you think about the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah. I mean, I try not to think about it too much. I think, Victoria, you earned your stripes. I think we've all been there, especially if you've been through, one cycle, two cycles. It starts to feel familiar. I've gotten to a point where I try to only look at the price in sats, what's often referred to as Moscow time. So, today you can get 3,585 sats for $1. And, looking forward to buying Bitcoin at, a price where I can get more sats per dollar. But if it doesn't go that way, then, that's fine too, because it shows that the value is going up. And I think that, in the long run, we're all going to be laughing at those prices years from now. I actually went back. I'm not a chart guy. I don't make price predictions, but I do like looking at the history and just seeing kind of where things have been, those repeating cycles that are basically patterns that happen almost incredibly predictably, right? So if you go back to 2017, it was December of 2017, I think, when Bitcoin hit that 20,000 level. And it only lasted for less than a day. And so then we saw, what happened after that. We crashed, we came all the way down to the bottom. 3 years later, we hit the 20,000 level again. And it's been basically 3 years almost since that point. And what has Bitcoin performed, poorly? No, it's been under 20K for maybe 2 months out of the last 3 years. So I look at that as just a sign that, we're repeating a pattern. It'll repeat again. People will always be surprised. They'll always use their emotions. They'll panic. They'll FOMO. It's just human nature. And so as someone who has been through this a couple of times, you have to just steel yourself and learn how to understand when those signals are happening. I don't like to look at the price too much, but it's funny. You talk about stable coins. Bitcoin's been stable. There's that joke, for quite a while at 28K, and there's the 58K gang, and they're waiting to get back there. So I think we'll see those days again. But are we in a huge hurry to do that? It depends on your time horizon. I'm not.
It's funny. People are always saying, buy the dip, and it's usually I'm either all in already, or I bought the last dip, and I bought the dip before that, and I bought the dip before that, and I'm out of dip buying money. I don't know where these people, maybe they're getting income and they have jobs and such, which is good. Everyone should keep their jobs, especially in a bear market. But yeah, where are you going to get more income or more to put in when you're already all in? But now you know what's going to happen. It's your chance to predict against the greatest predictor of Bitcoin price in all of Bitcoin history. It's also bald. Christian Rutzel, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Maybe we see a little bit higher. I'm optimistic.
Slightly optimistic, and he's German, so that should count as twice as much. Victoria, higher or lower next week?
Can I say about the same?
You can,
have
but
another
a push is the worst of all answers. Worst of all answers. It's as good as not a not answer. Daniel M., do you have an answer for us, an up or a down?
Just based on my experience, if I say lower, it'll probably go higher. So I'll say lower.
Classic reverse psychology method here. Here we go. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Says Bubbles. My sources say no. The ball is pessimistic. Its sources say no. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2, Operation Cookie Monster. It was worth it. International police action seizes dark web market. It's not your ordinary dark web market full of drugs and raw milk and shotguns. It's a very interesting dark web market where you could buy stolen documents, stolen identification, digital fingerprints, all kinds of great stuff. The site had more than 80 million credentials and digital fingerprints stolen from more than 2 million people that you could probably use to break into their accounts. Victoria Jones, what do you think about the close down of the Genesis market, which was closed down by an international gang of police officers who shut it down and say that they've reduced the ease of access to hacking?
Well, anyone hunting down a criminal is always a good thing. Although then you get into the debate as to who decides who's a criminal. But I think it's a salutary lesson in how new software really is. I mean, because it's been around all of our lives, it's easy to believe that it's this thing that's always been there. But in actual fact, if you look at the whole of history, it only really started in the 70s, same age as fiat currency, really. And when you put that in the context of the whole of history, relatively speaking, this is still a very new technology. And so it's going to take a while before all of these niches, we find effective ways of stopping it. Because, and the other thing is, it just kind of teaches you how you can never naively trust human beings. There are always going to be the ones who are corrupt, who want to cheat you in some way. And so having systems that prevent that, I think just help everyone to feel safer and more secure, which is where an objective system comes in, rather than one that's based on opinion. But at the end of the day, someone hacking your identity or hacking your accounts can cause serious disruption in someone's lives. And I think if there are teams trying to find ways to prevent that, then I approve of that. I like that. That's a good thing.
Well, I still think it's kind of neat that a place like this exists. It reminds me of reading like a William Gibson cypherpunk novel. It's like they're trading digital fingerprints and IDs on the dark web. And I hate to, bum the FBI and everybody else out, but I go a little contrary on this where, if you knock out one of these things and there's a great demand for these things, multiple of them will reopen. And if people want to trade whatever these things are, obviously I've never been to this site, I don't know anything about it, but if they want to trade them, they're probably going to keep trading them. So maybe they could have done one of those things like with the Silk Road where they kept it open longer and they could have caught everybody that way. But can you really catch everybody? Daniel M., what do you think about the darknet identity market being shut down?
It's more like what you call it, darknet whack-a-mole, right? It's just, you shut one down, another one pops up. There's always going to be a market for it because there's a market for it. And if people, the phrase, there's a will, there's a way, right? And, that's not a judgment on whether it's appropriate or not. But I do love a good crime drama. So I'm looking forward to reading the book or seeing the movie when it comes out. And I have been a victim of credit card theft, some forms of identity theft. I have plenty of hacking attempts. I have to put two-factor on everything, and I've done that for over 10 years because I knew that I was at risk of being a victim of that sort of digital crime. So I'm always in favor of seeing those types of actors go away. But I know in reality, it's not going to happen. It's just going to be a constant game of trying to play catch up, and they're only going to get more resourceful and smarter, and they'll learn from every time that one gets taken down, another will probably grow stronger in its place. So I don't see an end to this. I just see it as a constant struggle to try to keep those things from lasting too long.
Well, and you gotta love the name too, Operation Cookie Monster.
Oh yeah, and they had to go and ruin my childhood in the process. What's the next one going to be called? Operation Big Bird?
Bert and Ernie take down. All right, Christian.
Have one for the
Big Bird too. Christian, what do you think about the hacking market being taken down?
I mean, yeah, law enforcement is doing what law enforcement can do. I think not to make in such markets too easy. I think it's always good that you not get too much script kiddies just cashing in, and just so you keep it at least to those people. Not make it too mainstream. So it's okay. Law enforcement does what law enforcement do there. More interesting, I think, is the role of Bitcoin in that. I don't know exactly that market, but I assume that they also have Bitcoin. It's often from the people kind of the accusing on Bitcoin. Oh, those markets can just exist because Bitcoin exists, or maybe other cryptocurrencies. And but on the other way, I think as soon as you can say, yes, Bitcoin enables such trades on the internet with this crazy magical digital money we have now, that on the other side, it can also maybe in the long time or the long run fix most of those kind of problems, especially of this kind of dark market, because we are talking about credentials here. So people are very lazy with passwords or bad at kind of securing their digital life. So with Bitcoin, we do this basically all the time, right? We have a digital identity that we protect very, very well because there's money in there. So I think on the one side, Bitcoin will educate more people on how to sustainably have a secure digital identity more and more. So I hope this will in this direction will be good. And then on the other side also, we have to see what was traded on this kind of dark market. Is also kind of a lot of stuff comes from the advertisement industry, browser fingerprinting and all those techniques. They are basically the masters on tracking people online, and all those information was basically also for sale there. So also we hope to see with Bitcoin more and more an internet that's not so reliant on ads, because the ad model, the advertisement model, all the data tracking, that's really what the internet brought us so far, and hopefully Bitcoin will make it easier that we can use services more and more that are not on the free model tracking our data. So good hopes there that Bitcoin also maybe be a little bit a course for such markets right now, but in a long time also will help it, especially on this kind of markets we see here with the digital identity, will ease the pain on those.
Yes, it is possible. There are websites out there with millions of users' information, connecting all of their friends and family members together, even their photos and videos, all in one place. So they better watch out for that one too. But that one's just Facebook. I think Christian summed it up perfectly. It's all Bitcoin's fault, and they'll just keep blaming us, and we'll keep taking it. Moving on. Check out worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 3,044 videos. That's more than 3 months, 15 days, and 1 hour if you watched it straight without any breaks. All for free at worldcryptonetwork.com. Issue 3, Bitcoin stamps. NFTs are gaining on Ordinals. Yes, there was Bitcoin Ordinals where they would attach to Bitcoin and then store the rest of the image in a secondary network with the segregated witness and so forth. And oh, here he is right here. And now there's Bitcoin stamps. Bitcoin stamps are different than Ordinals. They allow you to store the actual data in the Bitcoin blockchain. However, the size of the image is limited by how much you want to pay for the data space. Let's see, we'll go down the line before we go to our new guest. Christian Rutzel, what do you think about Bitcoin? Or actually, we go to Daniel first. Daniel, what do you think about Bitcoin stamps versus Ordinals?
Well, as someone who has been running a node and paying attention to the mempool and the fees, watching what happened with Ordinals over the past few months has been really interesting, because it's caused a sudden surge in transaction fees. It makes it more expensive to perform any on-chain transactions, to open a channel. You know, we used to open channels at 1 sat per VByte, and now it's suddenly 10, 15, 20, 30 sats to get confirmed in the next couple of blocks. So not a fan of the NFT concept in general, but interested to see where stamps is going. I only learned about it yesterday. If that will bring down the fees, if people begin moving towards that, I could see that as a potential positive. But, you know, I guess, you know, what can I say other than the fact that Bitcoin once again has managed to usurp the use case of all the other altcoins that claim to be decentralized and claim to provide these utilities. It's all going to come to Bitcoin in some way, you know, one way or another. We have to learn to accept that, whether we like it or not. That's my view.
It is funny. We always used to say that. And now to see it coming true with projects like NFTs exiting to Ethereum and other projects, then coming back perhaps to Bitcoin. Christian Rutzel, what do you think about Bitcoin stamps?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's an innovation that was lying there and somebody probably had to do it. So now we're seeing it. I think when I compare it to Ordinals, at least for me was really, I think, a more aha moment to see, okay, this is now also possible. And there could be even something that could be discussed, be of use. So I'm waiting to see. I liked a little bit the SATS name idea. So having some kind of domain system for those kind of things, I think Ordinals are kind of a good compromise that can be starting off maybe something. We have to see. So I'm kind of more of a neutral position on this whole what discussion that Ordinals basically kind of were starting there. And the stamp thing, I think, yes, it brings the promise of having the most permanent storage. It's a pitch. I don't think that the interest we see right now is all spinned by this pitch. I think it's just because it's new, it's hype, and people just want to have the first kind of stuff minted there, because the first stuff is normally the most kind of best values, or you can be part of the hype very early. So I think this is mostly what we see. The people that were a little bit late on Ordinals now, they have more focus now on the stamp things, and that's where the usage comes there. But now people will try out what it will bring, and we have to see if the sales pitch of the most permanent thing is really that important. Personally, I don't think so, but I think Ordinals is a good enough compromise if you want to store the information decentralized. So I don't think there's the big need there, but maybe I will be surprised. I don't know. We have to see.
See, when I saw Bitcoin Ordinals, I felt a lot like that meme of Grandpa Simpson, where he's old man yells at cloud. And Luke Jr. in the same way, where he's like, it doesn't break the rules, but it bends them. And then it stores the data on some secondary chain. And I thought, in a mean way, someone's going to figure out how to cut that out. They're going to bring in some kind of update, some kind of side thing, and they'll figure out how to disconnect that. And then the Ordinal people were like, that'd be great. That would just make our stuff more popular. And I'm like, oh, you can't win with this. But it was interesting to see these projects come back and attach to Bitcoin. And I was especially interested in this one because of the different way that it stores itself in the blockchain. And of course, full disclosure, I do know Mike in Space, and I was on his show once. I think Jimmy Song and I were on like a parody of The Office or something. So people can go back and find that. It'll be fun. I think it might have been Mad Bitcoins. I don't know if it was me, but Victoria Jones, what do you think about the new Bitcoin stamps?
I don't know. NFTs on Bitcoin, I just don't get it. I mean, really, when you consider that probably the direst problem affecting humanity right now is the deterioration of our money, and we've got this amazing solution, and someone wants to contaminate it with an NFT. I mean, seriously, I mean, I understand that it's a great techie project, and, kudos to people who want to figure it out. But in the grand scheme of things, guys, we've got way bigger things to deal with on our hands. So yeah, I mean, I understand why people are interested in it, but for myself personally, I couldn't care less, really. I'm just like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Can we get on with changing the world with a new financial system, please? That's my focus.
We all know that the direst project affecting humans is the collecting of baseball cards. That's why I tried to solve it with curio cards in 2017. We all know curio cards on Ethereum are the world's best NFTs, but we're also joined by Arwen, one of the developers on Bitcoin Stamps. How's it going, Arwen? Welcome to the show. Maybe just tell us a little bit about the project, why you guys did it, and your role in it would be great. I'll be sure to unmute yourself, though. Sorry.
There we go. Hopefully that's better. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm an artist on working a lot with a counterparty network and generally crypto, blockchain, interested in both of those things. And so this project was a bit of a crossover. And honestly, we just did it because it was sort of interesting, and we definitely didn't build it to sell it actually. And in a lot of ways, just wanted to see stuff, and then other people decided that was a thing to do, so sort of just in the middle of it. But actually, one of the most profound things that I think has come out of it that I'm interested in as an artist is the I've mentioned about like Bitcoin, you're doing it wrong, something, and I believe that Bitcoin was developed as a radical way to decentrally share and distribute value between people amongst a layer of consensus. And I think that people are clearly showing, because this is not my idea, I didn't sell this to no VC to push this project, yeah? There's thousands of people doing it, yeah? It's like, do people think immutable data is important, first of all, and whether it is or it isn't, yeah, and whether how complicated UTXO-tree would be to implement and all those things, you know, how Bitcoin can scale. Yeah, I don't care really, to be honest with you, yeah. But what I'm seeing is people seeing art as value and saying it's like, yeah, like how, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, you know, how many transactions is a pixel worth, you know, and people are showing they're willing to exchange that. And at the end of the day, Bitcoin will be whatever we decide that it is, not whatever some people in the office who say you're doing it wrong is going to be. Because if we're going to imitate the system of fiat and financial and just port it into Bitcoin, what did we do? You know, and I understand why some people want that. But, and I'm not saying this is the answer, but what I'm saying is the phenomenon is not about stamps or not about ordinals. It's about people like not rebellion, but they want to sort of immortalize themselves in the fountain of immortal things. They built pyramids for that. So I think there's use case in historical precedents for the importance of immutability. But also it's kind of like, I don't want to swear on the TV, but it's like, I'm going to do what I want. And I want to write, for me, like my cartoon cow has got more value than the transactions that it's worth. You know, it's greater than the sum of its parts. And if you go on the community of Telegram, where we basically are based, you'll see you'll see that like the punk thing that people are talking about, that narrative, it's just a couple of people. It's not related to our group. It's people jumping on from other things, you know. We've got frogs and pigs and like stupid jokes and I do believe that this is not the first time we've seen it. I'll finish now, but like look at emojis in history, and like we've only been using fiat number systems for a short amount of time, really. And I would say that numbers really exist to measure our emotion, you know, not to control our emotion. And I think we're turning it back the other way.
Well, I've always thought that art was a great way to get more people into Bitcoin, and especially collectible art like a baseball card or a print from an artist, something like that. So I think it's a great idea in that way. And it's an interesting to see it challenge ordinals, whereas ordinals, you know, obviously when we did curio cards in 2017, we looked at our options. We were like, well, Ethereum's a good one. Counterparty, making our own version of Ethereum, that's a possibility. But we obviously didn't have segregated witness to work with that idea of splitting it off. However, it seems like Bitcoin stamps, could these have been done at any time? Does it require any of the new upgrades to make it possible?
No, honestly, that's I mean, from a sort of more guerrilla standpoint, like anyone could have done this. And people who get, like, I'm just a guy making frogs, yeah. It's like there's literally everyone in every space is like, we're part of a multi-international privately funded group of 1,000 devs all getting paid $1 million a week, to not notice that I can turn up with my JPEGs and break. It's not even me, bro. It's like, how is that even possible? And should we not believe that if this really breaks Bitcoin, it's not like all the countries in the world ready to DDoS Bitcoin with frog JPEGs? You know, it's like we should talk about this.
If it does break Bitcoin, it would be a disappointment. But I think we can survive through. Christian Rutzel, do you have any questions or comments here about stamps while we have one of the project members with us?
Yeah, maybe if you compare it to ordinals, can you make it clearer what are ordinals inscription? So the whole stack there, and you compare it to the Bitcoin stamp stacks. What give it for you, as even as an artist? What more does it give you? What more benefits do you get out of this? Why would you choose stamps over the ordinal inscription?
Well, because I know this is not technically good English, but it's more immutable. It's the most immutable currently available information decentralized storage in the world. You know, there's no other way to do it that I know of. I mean, I'm not an expert, and I don't claim to have even done anything. For me, it's basically simple stuff that was already available and just an extension of my, as I've said, my sort of statement that I said previously. And when I spoke to Mike about it, he was like, I've got this idea, and I don't even necessarily think that I would speak on behalf of Mike and say our values are aligned, but you know, serendipitously, when those two things happened. Yes, I'm interested in pressing buttons and trying to help the growth of Bitcoin as well, because I do want Bitcoin to be a future that we can all believe in, but let's just help expedite that process. And yeah, we had permanence that in a level that I think it's quite easy technically, right, to parse ordinals. I think most nodes, if you own a node at home and you're a normal person, quote unquote, you probably have already got a parse node, a pruned node, and you don't even, that's just what you get on default on a Bitcoin Core. You know, you'd have to think about it. When actually I was in Ordinals very early on as well as a new learner. And, you know, 99% of people rush in to download Ordinals full node, downloaded a pruned node, tried to do it. And after a week, they realized they couldn't do it and then had to start again with the full node. So that is a learning process. And I'm all about people having nodes. But in the future, if you're going to have your something on your phone or something like that, then your stamp is more likely to be there at that point than your.
All right, I've got a minor technical question. So right now the stamps are very small. They're like 24 by 24 pixels because of the cost. If you wanted to pay for a larger JPEG, could you simply pay for it? And then my second question is kind of more dangerous. If you could put like an executable file into the blockchain line by line and it comes out the other side like that alien program from Contact, and now you can just run the program. Is that possible? Is that dangerous? Is that something you encourage? What do you think about these ideas?
Some say that already happened. But yeah, I mean, to an extent, one of the things that we were really careful on about stamps, is it is a fun and experimental project, but we don't want to really break anything or anybody. So we were quite keen for stamps to be an art project, pixel-based art, effectively, in order to illustrate it. You know, not to. We don't allow those sorts of things. I think I want to say that. So we are quite careful about it. But obviously, it's a decentralized sort of service. It's like anyone can write on the blockchain. But we do filter, and we are an art-based project. If you're doing code sort of things, it's not really possible. But it wouldn't be part of the stamped protocol. It wouldn't be viewable through our API or whatever.
Very good. Victoria Jones, do you have any questions or comments about stamps? Good.
It's way over my head. Sorry, not my department.
All right, let's go to Daniel. I know you run a full node. Maybe you have some questions.
Well, I know my friends on Nostr Pleb Chain are going to probably crucify me for saying it, but I do think it's interesting, at least just because it goes back to kind of my roots as a digital artist. I used to create pixel art on a Commodore 64 where it was, you had 16 colors to work with and a tiny little box to work within. So, you know, I find that style of art very interesting, and there's no way I could ever possibly go back and find those again because they're all either completely destroyed or on floppy disks that may be in an attic somewhere. So the idea that you can create that sort of thing and know that it will be there forever is, I think, very interesting. Though I do have concerns again for the storage space. You know, we've seen the block size war. We know what happened with the big block versus the small block crowd, and the desire to be able to cram everything into Bitcoin. And just the fact that if you want to run a node and you want to run a full node because you want that ability to archive all of the Bitcoin transactions, I can do that right now on a 1 terabyte hard drive, which is only about just a little more than halfway full. The hardware costs obviously over time go down, but it still can become out of reach for people in parts of the world that don't have access to inexpensive technology. So, you know, the idea that Bitcoin has to remain decentralized enough so that everyone who wants to participate can, it does concern me that we're going to see blockchain bloat because of things that are being embedded, maybe arbitrarily, things that don't necessarily have any value. Maybe 1 or 2 of these NFTs will take off as a series, and suddenly people will FOMO in and you'll see this market emerge. But I don't know if they have the sort of value that I would want to see, you know, as I think, what did you say, Victoria, contaminating the blockchain? when we do have so many more important things to try to focus on that Bitcoin does solve. So I know we can't stop it. I know that people are going to tinker, they're going to develop, they're going to experiment. That's what this is. This whole thing that we call Bitcoin is a big experiment that's been running for 14 years. And I'm sure that there'll be more things we haven't thought about that will come to pass, and we'll have these debates over and over again. So all I can say is good luck to you. I'm not going to participate in it myself, but I'm sure that I'll be in the minority if it takes off.
I mean, it's not me, first of all. It's just, I literally just here for the memes, you know. But also a couple of things to finish. I mean, people say bloat, yeah, but I think it's goat, you know. I think that, like I say, I think that it's quite current to put so much emphasis on transactions being the actual money, you know, fiat being fiat value. I mean, what are we basing it against? Like, take anything in the last 100 years, basically. Just take some chewing gum from 1900 and it's going to be worth like $1,000 a packet equivalently. And I know we're talking about Bitcoin and we're trying to solve this, but like, I think that this is not a technological revolution. Bitcoin was the technological revolution. This is more of a philosophical revolution. And it's like, people don't want money. They're not interested in banking. We've seen that, yeah. But people understand. That's my picture. That's my JPEG. I keep art as a store of value, which is greater than I believe that we will at least be able to talk about this. Like, who are we? What is value? Where do we get that impression of all those things? And do we really want to just copy the world onto Bitcoin, or do we want to create a new Bitcoin, which we all agree, yeah, everybody? Because it seems like there's loads and loads of people going, yeah, JPEGs. And there's like a couple of people going, oh, you're doing it wrong. And it's like, well, the people are going to decide. That's what consensus means. So if genius people like yourself and other people go, okay, how can we actually apply this together? And how can we actually make our value? And we can accept that people consensus already agree with that, rather than trying to abstract it and make it all about transaction layers. And anyway, on top of that, what about when everybody goes to Lightning and all that? I don't know how you feel about that, but Casey's old argument that actually these pictures of frogs and cows will go back to controlling and securing layer one, and perhaps in the same way as in ancient times, the kings and gods and rulers of commodities would trade things of value and scale and measure as art, not as actual numeric value. But yeah.
It's always interesting to see how this comes around. I know when we were making curio cards in 2017, we used ERC20 tokens with it. At the time, were mainly used for ICOs, which are kind of like stock offerings. And it was like, these are very serious stock offering tokens. And like, how could you create your goofy little cards on here? You know, and they're like, you shouldn't do that. You should do it on Counterparty with Rare Pepe. And then there are other people that told us Rare Pepe were the only ones that should ever exist, and you should only make Pepes. So it's interesting to see there are a lot of gatekeepers, even ones you wouldn't expect. And at the same time, if you can write this into the Bitcoin blockchain and there's no errors and nothing goes wrong, you can write it into the blockchain. Nobody can stop you there. That's how that works. Arwen, thanks for being our guest. Would you like to join us for a couple more issues here? Do you have time?
Yeah, sure. I'm just here chilling. Happy to be part of the show. Sorry if I was late or whatever. You know,
oh, no worries. Because we were late on inviting you, and we're really glad you could come. And it's great to have your ideas about stamps, and great to hear from Mike in space and Theo and the rest of the gang as well. Just great to see these new ideas. So just try to mute yourself when you're not talking, and then we'll call on you for the next issue. Moving on to issue 4. Apple hiding a Bitcoin manifesto in Macs is fueling theories that Steve Jobs was Satoshi Nakamoto. They don't have very much evidence. They have the document, which is, I can confirm, included on my copy of macOS right here. It's kind of a sample document for the scanner. So this is what a PDF file looks like. So it's not like it's even really labeled as the Bitcoin white paper or some kind of Easter egg. It's probably whoever programmed the scanner software, the scanner driver. The second piece of information they have that proves that Steve Jobs is indeed Satoshi Nakamoto is that Satoshi stopped communicating around 2010 and Jobs passed away in 2011. So these are not very strong points, but we'll go down the panel because it's such an exciting and fun idea to talk about. Christian Rutzel, was Steve Jobs the genius behind Apple, person who made my Apple iPhone? Was he also Satoshi Nakamoto?
I hope not. It's just like, seriously. I mean, it's always, it's a little bit funny. I get that this is a story and this is big and this is gossip. It works at gossip perfectly. It's because people want to see this big innovations like we see with Bitcoin, and they want to see it as this one figure they can attach, like they're thinking in companies like multi-billionaires seeing the world as their playground. It's like the same thing with Elon Musk and Dogecoin. It's really, he completely ruined it. He squeezed the last little fun that was in Dogecoin out of it with playing with it. So at least, and this should not be sound harsh, but if we find more evidence that it could have been Steve Jobs, at least he's not alive anymore. I mean, sorry to say he was bigger, but at least that's somebody who's really not there anymore. So he cannot do something strange or something like Musk is kind of doing. So seeing all those kind of technology becoming some playground from some multi-billionaires is, I know it works. It's good gossip, but I hope it's not true.
I agree, Christian. It has some echoes of the great man theory of history, where only people like Napoleon or Martin Luther King affected history, not the millions of people following, the people doing the bus boycotts, the people fighting the wars, but rather these great men. So if you look at the Satoshi roster and you say, well, it has to be Jobs or Bill Gates or Ballmer or Allen or the Oracle guy, Larry Ellison, one of these people, because they're the only ones that could do it because they're huge and they're big. And the reality, which Satoshi, for all we know, is a totally random person, a man or woman or space alien. And we just don't know. So it's fun to talk about. Victoria Jones, what do you think about Satoshi Jobs?
Well, it's interesting because I think they said the paper only goes back as the operating system from 2018. So that suggests it was added in 2018, maybe not as far back as 2011, which would kind of discount the idea that it was maybe Steve Jobs who was Satoshi Nakamoto. Having said that, though, a number of years ago, I watched this video by someone called Bix Weir, who's very into silver, and he knew some remote viewing guys. I don't know if you've heard of remote viewing. It's something that apparently the US Army used to use as part of their psychological warfare. Apparently it was a program introduced by Ronald Reagan, and there are people who now use those techniques to explore other things. And one of the things they used it for was to try and explore, who Satoshi Nakamoto could be. And the result they came up with was that it was Alan Greenspan, Steve Jobs, and someone else they couldn't identify. And this was a number of years ago before this even happened. So, whether or not it's true, I mean, the thing is, these things are like entertainment and possibilities. And, I think for as long as Bitcoin exists and thrives, people are always going to be fascinated by the idea of whoever Satoshi Nakamoto was. And I will say he was clearly a genius, but the most genius move he made was to keep himself anonymous, because it's just such an interesting story. And to have kept himself anonymous, even in an age where you've got access to all this digital information, I think is incredible. I mean, that's testament to his skill as much as anything else. So I think it's always going to be interesting. But I did, the thing that occurred to me when I heard this story was, watching this video a number of years ago when they maintained that Steve Jobs was a key part of the team. And also people talk about Satoshi Nakamoto being an individual, but in the white paper, he actually refers to himself as we. Now, I know sometimes people can do that anyway. So he could be an individual and claiming he was a collective, or it could actually be a collection of people. I'm not sure we'll ever know. But nevertheless, it's fascinating. And I've been in the various chats that I'm in today, people have been looking on their computers to try and find it, and people have been finding it and they're blown away by it. And so it's an exciting story and very interesting. But yeah.
I'm sure Satoshi was just using the royal we, Satoshi as a noble. And I'm a fan anytime we get to talk about the Satoshi Trinity theory. We've talked about this before, how if you look at the values of Satoshi and what it took to make the paper, to make the code, to make the emails, there might be multiple people there. The basics of the trilogy theory, as I recall it, you have to watch old videos because I don't remember, but it's like a young guy coded it, an old guy had the philosophy, and maybe somebody in the middle had the economic value, because there's just so much of detailed knowledge of multiple fields that you'd have to have 3 or 4 doctorate degrees, or you'd have to be 3 or 4 people. Daniel M., what do you think about Steve Jobs, Satoshi? Everybody gets a free iPhone.
When Victoria said remote viewing, the image that came to my mind was 11 from Stranger Things lying in a bathtub. So that may be what you're talking about.
They should have had her go after Satoshi. It's a much better thing. Like,
well,
the men who stare at goats were just killing goats in the movie. They could have gotten Satoshi, or who Deep Throat was. There's all kinds of great stuff they could have learned.
Why would you just want to know that? But the one thing we do know for sure is it wasn't Steve Wozniak, because he was an Ethereum guy. That's been put to rest. We all know that. But yeah, so when I saw that, I saw the post a couple days ago, and I had to try it out for myself. I immediately copied and pasted the line, put it into my terminal, and there was the white paper. And just in all its glory, it's just amazing to see that sort of was laying there waiting for us to discover it, and it's just remarkable to know that it's part of another part of our Bitcoin history, another one of those crazy stories that we may never get to the bottom of, and maybe that's a good thing. It's probably some developer who loved Bitcoin, who worked at Apple and put it in there, and hoped that someone would find it one day and it would be a story like this. And so it's just a fun thing for me to see. If Steve Jobs has a connection to Satoshi, maybe he's one of the several people that were involved. We'll never know. But to paraphrase what Jack Mallers said on Bloomberg a little while back, Bitcoin, we never know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. He might be dead, but it's working pretty well.
And finally, Arwen, what do you think about the possibility that Steve Jobs is Satoshi Nakamoto?
Well, I believe some pretty big whoppers, to be honest with you, in my reality, but that one is not something I'm going to dwell on for too long. I would say, no. Just leave it at that.
I love the idea, though, for the whole PC versus Apple war. You're like, oh, yeah, you have a PC? Well, my computer was designed by Satoshi Nakamoto. And as a... Go ahead.
I totally can imagine that there was someone in the advertising department of Apple in 2018 who thought, going to go back to, it reminds me, it's very Shakespeare, the whole Nakamoto thing anyway, and people love a bit of a mystique, and it's like, it's kind of like a really low brow, like, oh, we're going to do the KLF and like subversively, and then 5 years later, the start of Dumb and Dumber 2, when he's like, does the joke for 7 years. That's actually funny. This is just like, yeah, bro, whatever. Okay.
I do love, like Daniel was saying, that if you had a Mac, you've been secretly carrying around the white paper for all these years. It's a pretty wild.
I have got a Mac and I have been carrying it around. So, but yeah, I do.
Maybe cool. Apple should change its slogan to Bitcoin Inside.
Oh, Bitcoin Inside. That'd be pretty good. Let's move on to the exit question here. There's another Satoshi that's interested in this story. That's right. Craig Wright, as the USA Today says, self-proclaimed Satoshi, is allegedly targeting Apple for breaching copyright with the Bitcoin white paper. Let's go really quickly down the line. Christian Rutzel, what do you think about Craig Wright trying to get in on this Steve Jobs story and alleging copyright once more for the white paper?
Yeah, this sounds like a very hurt ego there. It's like, I don't know. And then especially like the copyright on the white paper is, I don't get that part. I mean, I just saw the headline there, but I totally don't get the story. Somebody just tries to find some angle to be part of the conversation. So
it is one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin that things like the original Bitcoin logo, the white paper, as far as I know, exist out there without copyright, maybe even Creative Commons. And then, of course, that's an invitation for someone else, allegedly, to come along and claim, I wrote that, I made that, I own that. So Victoria Jones, what do you think about old fake Satoshi trying to tear down our new fake Satoshi, Steve Jobs?
I have to say, the more I read and learn about Craig Wright, the more I'm convinced he has some serious mental health problems. I mean, I'm sorry, but anyone who wants to spend that length of time engaged in legal battles, I mean, I've been engaged in a legal battle before in my life, and there are better things to do with your life, quite frankly. I mean, I know he's actually, he's been fairly successful in the past using that kind of strategy. But on this one, I mean, I think right from the beginning, Satoshi Nakamoto designed it in such a way that it was open source software. So for someone to try and pursue that, I mean, I don't know. He needs some help, some serious mental help, I think.
Well, I'm not supposed to get political, but we do have some wonderful narcissists here in the United States that just love the court system, and they love to sue people. They love not to pay. And recently they've even been getting indicted and arraigned. So it is interesting out there. Daniel M., what do you think about Craig Wright's claims against Apple?
Well, there are two things you can guarantee will always happen in Bitcoin. One is the media will declare it dead over and over again. And Craig Wright will declare that he invented it over and over again. I don't see it going away anytime soon. He loves the limelight. I'm not sure what his motives are other than wants to be famous and thinks he can scam people. And for some people, that's just enough for them. So I feel sorry for anyone who follows him. If you are one of Craig Wright's devotees, please take a long, hard look at him and what he really represents, because you might find that there's not much there that you should be putting your faith into.
Well, and we're all enjoying this little Easter egg that we know was probably added by some coder who's working on the scanner driver. But Craig Wright is the one who comes in with the blanket ready to snuff out all our fun. He's like, no one can enjoy having a little copy of the white paper on your computer. There's no fun in Bitcoin. And I just think that alone, if I was on his side, I'd be like, why am I following the no fun guy?
We're all going to get sued after this, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, everyone's name's on a list. We're lucky if you're anonymous here. Arwen, the last to be sued. What do you think about Craig Wright's claims on the white paper? Maybe, I'm sure it's been inputted as text into the blockchain, which he also must own. But yes, it's another great claim from Craig. Oh, gotta unmute. Sorry.
I'm sure you can imagine that Craig is a big supporter of stamps. And has like got many sub 10 stamps. I think he's got like 15 sub 10 stamps or something like that, allegedly. So I don't want to say too much. And also, I think he inspired the code. I believe that he visited Mike in a dream and gave him the concept. So really, nothing bad to say about Craig, apart from the fact he's hilarious and I enjoy the show. Like, he's obviously a super smart guy, knows a lot of things. But I'm not allowed to say anything to Michael, they'll sue me, so best not. But good luck, and stamps on BSV coming sooner. Let's smash that. There's loads of room.
I was going to say that's coming next. It's really neat if he owns some early stamps, but I totally agree with you. BSV, BCH, all these other projects could very easily adapt this stamps idea to them, and then have a similar system.
But no knowledge of Craig Wright. That was just a comedy bit I was doing. I don't have any knowledge. Everyone knows it's Elon who was early into stamps, not Craig.
Would be interesting if Elon was in the Trinity, and maybe it's Craig Wright, Elon Musk, and Steve Jobs. Oh, how exciting.
Not Steve Jobs, but whatever.
It could be Bill Gates, maybe. No one knows. Moving on to issue 5, our bonus issue. I just saw this today. We were talking a lot about Binance last week. Binance's market share hits lowest level since November after the CFTC lawsuit and the end of zero-fee trading. As we talked about a lot of times, whenever anyone offers zero free trading, that means that there's no fee to trade with yourself. And now you can create infinite fake volume, or as Binance's trading share has dropped from 70% of the market to 54%, perhaps they just had to turn off the zero fee bots, or perhaps people are really leaving Binance in droves, the company without a home, the alleged criminal conspiracy moving around the world, beating the heck out of Coinbase at every level. Victoria Jones, what do you think about Binance and their sudden loss of market share?
Well, I mean, I don't understand the case in detail, but the few things that I have heard and listened to, it does sound like they might have Binance a bit over a barrel with this legal case, because there isn't many ways out of it. And I think people who've had that kind of writ against them in the past, just by being forced to defend themselves, it could cost them an awful lot of money. And we all know how deep Binance's pockets are, but even then that could be enough to really put a dent in their pocket. So I think there are some people who are taking this really seriously. I mean, we all know that Binance has been in the crosshairs of the US government. I think a lot of the people who were harmed by the whole FTX thing, and I think there were some powerful people who were affected by that, really now have it in for Binance. And so, you know, when you realize that they've created some powerful enemies, it does make you think twice. You know, they've avoided a lot. And, you know, I admire the product that they've created. You know, I've used it myself. But, you know, all good things come to an end. And I'm not saying it's the end for Binance, but I don't think anyone should minimize the gravity of the situation they're in. I mean, CZ is doing a terrific job on the PR front, as he normally does. But I think, you know, this civil lawsuit seems to be quite a serious thing. And I think people who understand that are kind of thinking, okay, maybe it's time to move my resources in a different direction. And fair enough, you know, so.
I believe Binance has been accused of mixing customer data with their US operation, with their international operation, customer trades, other information like that, which of course has freaked out the US government. The other half of that is there seems to be kind of an FTX revenge tour going on. I don't remember if it was this article or another article, but it talked about how the politicians were upset that they had egg on their face, and now they're going to take it out on the rest of the crypto industry because FTX and SBF tricked them and made them look bad and so forth. Daniel M., what do you think about the sudden drop in Binance market share?
Well, I think it shows that there really wasn't that much volume. It was faked. You know, that's how I see it. And just like, you know, Victoria said, it is easy to make it look like there's volume when there isn't. You know, I think when you run a huge exchange like that, it can help kind of give you a lot of hubris. I think CZ really let this whole enterprise go to his head. Really feels like he thinks he's untouchable, and now he's starting to realize that maybe that is not the case. I'm actually curious about something entirely different. I'd like to know what's happening with the $2 billion recovery fund that was promised back in November of last year when everything started falling apart for the crypto markets. You know, we know that Binance has been the kingmaker in the crypto world. And so, you know, it's interesting to see that, you know, they made a promise, but I haven't seen anything being delivered. So what companies, what projects are meant to benefit from this? And, you know, where's that money all going? I haven't heard any answers about that myself. So, you know, I think that, you know, like just like you said, FTX was a huge black eye against not just the industry, but against politicians, against regulators. And now they are looking for someone they can take down. And, you know, potentially this is their opportunity.
It was interesting to see all of that recovery money. I think Binance had put up around $2 billion, held it in a public account that was trackable, and now it's been moved. So I think, unfortunately, that's probably going to go to the Binance Defense Fund or something like that. And it does seem like CZ was on his way and he was training to become a hero, but that hero seemed to be Lex Luthor. I'm not sure which direction he was going in. So that's all allegedly, of course. Arwen, what do you think about Binance? They've hit some trouble with the CFTC and they've lost about 20% of their market share.
Well, I think, I mean, it goes like that, doesn't it? It's crypto. What's 20%? It's like nothing. Like Binance, whatever they are doing, like I don't think they really care about America. I think that's pretty clear. They're going to do what they want to do. CZ's a G. I mean, like everybody, every star we have in media is eventually hoisted by their own petard. Is this like CZ's time? I don't know. It's like, I don't think so. But also I don't have Binance and I don't worry too much about it. I don't follow it too closely, but yeah, I mean, what we know is this is about personalities, and eventually, like, it all comes home to roost. But to what authority? Like, a CZ doesn't really get involved in America. They can do what they want. He's going to be like, yeah, fine, bro. That's what I think.
It was only months ago that SBF was on the cover of Fortune magazine and other things like this. So it is interesting. You know, today's hero is tomorrow's evil genius. You got to track him down.
I don't like the whole SBF thing. It's like, exactly, it's another story. It's not my place to talk about that on this show, but like, it's a different story to CZ, isn't it? And there's definitely competing powers, each of them trying to play Monopoly with each other, basically. Good luck. It's pretty bad. I'm against it. Take the numbers off everything and use pictures as art, as value, and it solves all these problems.
As soon as we can get a decentralized picture exchange going, we'll be all set.
Come on, help.
Christian Rutzel, what do you think about CZ's troubles and Binance losing a great share of their market?
Yeah, I think it's great. It's just like, yeah, those big players, those big trading platforms. I mean, sure, there needs to be trading somehow, but I want to see it more on the either on the local level, so it's really part of the community, and that the profits that are made there are then kind of people, at least it somehow gets back into society or something, at least, and not into the pockets of some big shits. And I'm glad to see those big kind of legally trickery, always weaseling around, kind of basically they are a company, but just try to get around and don't want to be seriously. So yeah, it's good to see them all fall apart. So either regulate correctly, do your part in your country, and be part of often basically financial infrastructure with all the problems that come with that, or really go decentralized and really do it real on the ground level. This middle thing was a big money maker in the past, and I'm glad to see this more and more falling apart.
Oh, who will think about the millionaire founders like CZ? No one cries a tear for poor CZ. Well, we're running out of time, so we're going to go to predictions or story of the week. Christian, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe both. My prediction is we will see this year a more Bitcoiners dancing, because I already saw the first kind of signs as with my new career as DJ. So doing the video meme thing seems to work good with people. So I see more and more Bitcoiners dancing, and my prediction is this is a trend that will continue this year. And maybe look into to BTC Prague if you go there. Maybe there will be a plat party where we have a good party. We see. And story of the week is a little bit, it's maybe a recommendation, because family time is coming up, the holidays basically are happening now. I can say check out Satlantis. It's a Minecraft project where we basically can play together with your family, kids, like maybe kids can teach you a little bit about Minecraft, but in the game there's a little ASIC, so you mine Bitcoin basically, and you get Satoshis even as rewards that you can pay out, so you can get people their first Satoshis this way also. So this is maybe a nice thing to connect over the holidays. So that's my kind of story of the week. Satlantis.net, you should find it. That's the server, and yeah, that's my recommendation, my story.
That sounds pretty fun. The last time I was on a Bitcoin Minecraft server, they'd figured out how to put the Bitcoin or the Satoshi into like the jewels. Then they were dumping the jewels in the lava, and they were destroying the Bitcoin. It was very exciting. I don't know what happened on the back end, if it was successful or not, but it was a nice idea. Victoria Jones, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Well, my story of the week is I'm now a guest contributor for the International Business Times in the UK, and they've now published a couple of my articles, one on real estate, predictions for the property market and how that relates to Bitcoin, and another one on Bitcoin and government. Both articles can be found on my website, but they've now made a point of publishing those. So that's quite exciting. And also someone reached out to me on my last newsletter and asked if they could translate it to Spanish because they wanted to share it with their Spanish friends. And so that inspired me to start translating some of my websites. So I'm starting off with Spanish, may well come up with a few other languages in the future, just to try and, keep spreading the message and, getting that information out there, because it's quite a lot of effort to put together something like a newsletter, and actually translating it into different languages seems like a good way of kind of spreading it further and wider. So yeah, I've had quite a lot to do lately, and keeping me busy and out of trouble. That's my story.
That's great, Victoria. Congratulations on the International Business Times. That sounds great. Daniel M., do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Sure, I can do a prediction. So, I left Twitter back in November last year. Never looked back really, and found my way into Nostr, which I've just been going down that rabbit hole. It's I think I dragged you in there kicking and screaming. But so there was no one kind of running a node community on Nostr. So a few of us started one called Node Stritch, which launched at the end of January, even before zapping was enabled on the platform. And we've grown it to almost 200 nodes. Right now we're at 193 in the last 2.5 months. So my prediction is we'll hit 200 nodes by the end of this month. We've had some fairly prominent people join, like BTC Sessions and C Equals, which is part of Block, have signed up. So, you know, we're all doing our part to keep the Lightning Network decentralized and reliable. And it's just a great place to learn. Like, if you've never thought about running a node before, if you did think about it and you thought it was too hard, you're welcome to join. It's an open community. It's completely free. And you even get your own NIP05 ID just for signing up. So come on in. It's a lot of fun. You can visit Nodestrich, NODESTRICH.com.
That sounds great, Daniel. I think one of the main uses for Nostr users is to get that thing where it shares your key. So you don't have to put your public or your security key into everywhere. You put it into that server thing, and then the server would log in for you. So especially if you could teach people how to do that, because there's a whole thing coming where if your Nostr private key gets exposed, your identity is doomed. So nobody wants to face up to that, but that's a reality of using a private key like that directly on the network. You're metal on metal, like a train. It's going to be there. So hopefully solutions like that will get out to more people. Finally, Arwen, do you have a prediction or a story a week, or maybe just what you guys are working on next with stamps? Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, like I say, update with us. We're stampchain.io/mint if you want to mint. All I want to say about it is we just did it for fun, no? Seriously. So it's like a lot of people going out there trying to mint, make money, do sales, and they're trying to circumvent to profit from their own things, you know? And it's like, don't use Counter Wallet, use the service, use Free Wallet. Yeah, it's like it's a comparable product that we're improving all the time. We built it not first, we built the protocol first, and when we see the damage that's being done by people messing up and wasting so much money on unsupported products, that worries me a bit. So don't FOMO in, just join the group. It's like that's what I would say. Other than that, mullets are big. Check out, mullets seem to be everywhere. I don't know, I've got mullet. But representing for the mullets across the world. Grow a mullet, that's good advice.
Very good. It's been so long since we've seen a community formed around a hairstyle like the mullet. But that's great stuff. Everybody check out Bitcoin Stamps. Thanks to everybody for watching. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. Push subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be here every week. So until next time, bye-bye.